This man named Charles Chen approached you on the internet? Did he approach you through Instagram, or how did he found you?
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy because I think maybe a week or so after I had that conversation with my boss, Charles Chen reached out to me on Instagram, and he first messaged me by saying, "Have we met on campus before?" And we had a lot of mutual followers on Instagram. He had photos of himself at Stanford, so I really thought he was another Stanford student, and this wasn't weird. A lot of Stanford students connect through Instagram.
Yeah.
But then he very quickly, it very quickly became weird because he asked in Chinese if I speak Chinese. He said, 你会说中文吗? And I was like, yes, but how did you know that? And he said, 我猜的.
What?
And so I was really put off by that, and that was really concerning. And that's sort of when I started documenting the conversation and seeing where it went. And it got very weird after that.
Yeah, not to be racist, just but by looking at you, I wouldn't assume that you know Chinese. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So what happened afterwards?
Yeah, so then I continued talking to him. I was already suspicious, but I kind of just wanted to collect information, I guess. I just wanted to see what would happen.
For research purpose, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he, started kind of trying to invite me to China and asking whether or not I'd been to China. He asked where my family was from. And, I said I'd never been to China, and he said, you really should go. And then, he offered to pay for me to go to China, and he sent me a screenshot of his bank account to prove that he could afford it. He sent me videos of, Americans who had gone to China and gotten rich and famous for having YouTube channels and being able to speak Mandarin. And then he also was urging me to move the conversation off Instagram and onto WeChat. And so that was also very suspicious to me because I know that WeChat is it's not safe, it's monitored. And so that, I think the alarm bells were really going off at that point. And I hit the breaking point with him when he commented in Chinese under one of my posts asking me to delete screenshots of our conversation. And I had no idea how he knew I had been screenshotting it because I know how Instagram screenshotting works, and nothing that I would have taken screenshots of would have notified him. So it was just very scary. And at that point, I cut off the conversation.
Oh, the post that he was commenting under was just a normal post, right? A normal photo.
Yeah.
It's not like a screenshot of your conversation, right?
Right. Yeah. And the other thing is he also knew the whereabouts of Stanford students who were in China at that time. Wow. So there's this one girl I know, she was in China traveling during the time of Charles Chen and I's correspondence. And she had actually been reached out to him years prior, and she had blocked him on everything. So it was very strange and concerning that he knew that she was in China.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like he's like a Chinese spy whose task is to monitor Stanford students.
Yeah, exactly. And based on
you guys.
Right. And based on conversations I had afterwards, I found a lot of other students who had been reached out to by Charles Chen. And so it seemed like he'd been doing this for years. Wow. And people were really put off by what he was saying, but no one had actually reported it to anyone. So I was lucky that I was, doing research with people who were willing to help me. But it was just very concerning.
Who did you first reach out to after you found out like the whole thing was getting too much, too strange?
Yeah, I reached out to my research lead at the Hoover Institution. And then he put me in touch with another researcher, and then he put me in touch with the FBI. So the Hoover Institution has an FBI contact because this kind of thing happens a lot. And so that's how I, initially made contact with the FBI and realized this was not just a weird scam, and it actually was something more concerning.
Wow.
So what happened after FBI approached you?
Yeah. What did they say? Did they say, are you you're in danger, or what?
Yeah. Did you get any threats afterwards?
Yeah. So in my initial interaction with the FBI, I didn't get any threats because it was all very private. And, I wasn't telling anyone beyond the FBI and the people at Hoover what had happened. After I started writing on it and doing journalism and making it very public, I wrote a piece for the Stanford Review, which is where I do journalism on campus, and also for the Times of London. Then I started getting weird, threatening emails and phone calls. So this summer, I got a lot of phone calls when I was working in Washington, D.C. The caller would say hello in English, and I would say hello back, and then they would switch to Mandarin. So that was really kind of scary, I think. And one of them actually mentioned something about my mom, but I hung up very quickly. And I also got emails threatening to sue me, saying that if I don't take down all of my writing on this, that I would be sued and that I needed to issue an apology. And I recently also got a phone call right after I went out for dinner with my sisters. The caller switched to Mandarin and asked me whether or not I had finished eating dinner. So, and then, and I was also told by the FBI in November that I'm being physically monitored on campus by agents of the CCP. So it has gotten very threatening. I still feel pretty safe, but yeah, it's definitely concerning.
Wow. Agents of CCP on campus. So probably I would assume some international students undercover.
Yeah, definitely that. And yeah, who knows? Who
right?
else? I was given very little information. I was just told that it wasn't digital, and that if I felt followed or watched, I should, tell the FBI. But if the threat becomes imminent and they, physically attack me or something happens, I should call the police. So that was the last time I talked to the FBI about.
That doesn't sound reassuring though, like being attacked. Oh my God.
Did that change your life on campus? I mean, have you have any like Chinese or Taiwanese international friends? Does that stop you from making friends with them? Because everyone looks really suspicious from that.
And also, thank you for agreeing to be on our podcast. I mean.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it definitely has had an impact on my interactions with Chinese international students. I've had some friends who have kind of distanced themselves from me, which I understand. I think, you don't want to be friends with someone who's very publicly anti-CCP if you live in China. But I've also met a lot of people through the work I've done, and I think that's been really encouraging, meeting people who are on my side and who are also critical of the CCP. So it has, its pros and cons, but I definitely think it's important to keep talking about it because a lot of people are facing similar transnational repression but can't say anything about it.